Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the Armor Wizard Zap Zap and the King of Armor Destruction, and we have a body armor test today. This is from a very well-known brand. This is from MILITECH. This is their black label. Ooh, VIP. This is an E-sapping medium, so 9.5 by 12.5, very close to a 10 by 12 plate. This guy weighs 6 pounds 6 ounces and is approximately 1 inch thick, or 25.4 millimeters for those across the pond. It is multi-curve. You can see all those sexy curves there. And this claim to fame on this particular model is that it is a silicon carbide strike face, and the strike face extends edge to edge. Now here comes the very important spiel. Over here on my channel, we do things almost completely different than anyone else doing demos on YouTube for body armor. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. That is the official NIJ testing distance. We also shoot at 0 degrees because that is worst case scenario. If we put any plate carriers or magazines or throw it up against a tree or any of that stuff, that's not worst case. We want maximum energy transfer on that plate. We want to meet velocity specs so that we know if a particular bullet design is stopped at 0 degrees and going whatever velocity, that's worst case scenario. And in a real world situation, you are going to be fine. Also, since this is a ceramic strike face per the NIJ, we have a drop test rig where we drop each plate on its face 2 times as a preconditioning test. We also use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina, #1 clay donated by Siobhan. That acts as our compressible media, and it's like a 95-pound object that the body armor gets strapped against so that it doesn't swing out of the way, or some of the energy isn't being used to throw the plate 5 feet in one direction. Again, we are aiming for worst case scenario. We also use a chronograph whenever possible because we need to know the velocity of that particular bullet. We put a spreadsheet here at the beginning that we kind of foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. And then at the end, we do a tear down and we confirm those penetrations, and we put it in a nice little summary for you. As of 2022 or 2023, today is actually January 1st, 2023 when I recorded the introduction for this. After we performed our drop test on our plates, we do a torque test. That's where we grab the plate and we try to listen for any cracks. And if we don't hear any cracks, we mark a TQ and a check mark on there. And then the DT also means that we've done a drop test. I do detect that there is drop face foam on that plate. So usually when we do that, that helps prevent that ceramic from cracking. In the past, pretty much, I think with silicon carbide and alumina oxide, I never really hear any cracking from dropping the plate on its face. Normally it's only with boron carbide. We have plate #1 strapped up and we're ready to take our first hits. Since this is a level 4 RF3 plate, I think I forgot to mention that in the opening, but the spec for that is 1 single hit of M2 armor piercing going 2880 feet per second plus or minus 30. You won't see that out of a M1 Grand or a 1903 Springfield. I've had to load these in 300 Winchester Magnum. We have a TC Compass with a 24-inch barrel and our Yankee Hill Phantom M2 on there. I also forgot to mention in the opening that our clay, I have been heating for about 3 to 4 hours, but I need to build kind of like a little igloo or hut for it to keep all the air in or the heat in and get a better heater. So the NIJ, they have to heat that clay up to about 103 degrees and they drop a giant ball on it to test it, to calibrate it. So mine's more of a representation, but if we see, back face in my clay over like 50 millimeters, that's probably not a good sign. The NIJ allows for a maximum of 44. So I have two shots of M2AP. Those should be our spec rounds. I have 2 shots of Plus P Plus, or my 300 Win Chad. Then I have a 130 grain M80A1 from 7.62 NATO, but we have it in our 300 Win Chad velocities. I'm actually not sure why I'm going to put all these in here because all these won't fit in this magazine. We'll take the 2 standard pressure first. This would be the upper left of the plate. I can't read the velocity. I did get a new screen. It's 400 nits brightness wise, so we should be able to see that in daylight a little better. The second shot will be to the right of that one. Just smoked a strap. All right. Now we'll take our, ooh, I lost a primer there. We'll take our 2 plus P plus wind shad loads. This will be in the lower left of the plate. Really good velocity off that. And this will be in the right-hand corner. Oh, I pulled that one, folks. I'm not sure how I did that. That one's way too wrong of a shot. How did I do that? All right. And then this one will be in the lower right, hopefully. All right, that was where I wanted that one. I have a couple treats for plate number 2, but we're going to finish off plate number 1 with some 5.56 threats, specifically M855A1. That is the Army's current issue ball round. It replaces M855. The tip is much larger and harder. Very, very potent round. We have our Armor Slayer here, our 22-inch TC compass with our Yankee Hill Turbo 5.56 up front. Got a primary arms 16 power SLX first focal plane scope up top, and our Oryx chassis. Very nice little gun here. This should be on the top of the plate. This will be right next to it. That went a little high. And then these ones are going to be on the 3rd row. Nice. Let's go check out plate number 1. I do believe all of these shots are considered fair hits on this plate. He's looking pretty sad, folks, now with the NIJ's RF3 or level 4. It's one single hit of M2AP center of mass. I wish when they released their new standards, they would come out with like an RF4 or 5 to address multi-hit capability of M2 armor piercing on these. But I think at that point, that would be the least of your worries if you've got that many hits against you. M2 AP shot number 1. Number 2, our plus P plus wind shad was shot right there. And then somehow I pulled that one, so it was shot number 4. That is a fair hit. Our M80A1 shot was right there. Then M855A1 shots number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Place those bets in the comments below. Ruh-oh, Raggy. We have penetrations on the second hit of standard pressure M2 AP, our M80A1 wind shad, and the 5th hit of M855A1. Now at that point the plate's pretty compromised and we're in a compromised area, and with silicon carbide, typically all this energy on the plate causes it to fall apart pretty quickly. I recommend that manufacturers find a way to laminate the strike face like we have with our HESCO products to keep all that ceramic together, because we've lost quite a bit of it on our plate, our table so far. As far as back face goes, that first hit, like I said, the clay is cold, so it's gonna not show us true representation, but it's just a guess. 12 to 15 millimeters. Our wind shad down here though, let me get a better shot at that there. Right around 41 millimeters. So that one in the NIJ's clay may be failing. Let's strap up plate number 2 and see what carnage we can do. We'll do a tear down and confirm any additional penetrations at the end. Now for Mr. $100 bill. This is our 52 grain tungsten core M995. This is the Army's actual armor piercing round. We should see 3,400 feet per second with this. It is getting kind of dark outside. It is 5:18. I probably should have called it 45 minutes ago, but the clay's been heating, so we might as well get it done. This ammunition is extremely hard to get stateside. Even the testing labs, it costs them a fortune. For little old me, it was about $100, but you guys are worth it. I'm going to place this on the left side of the plate, probably on the 3rd row of the dots. Not sure, 34 something? Nice. I figured we couldn't leave our 8mm friends out. We've got our Yugoslavian M48A, got a 3 to 9 scope and a no gunsmith required scope mount up top. We have 2 rounds of SMK, not the H. This is a steel core variant. Now it's only going about 2,600 feet per second. It's I think 186 grain. I feel that M2 armor piercing is vastly superior to this, but we've got a second plate, so let's see what it's going to do. If you don't own 8mm and you're looking at picking it up and picking up some of this surplus, bear in mind that most of this stuff is corrosive primed, so you want to clean out your barrel when you're done shooting. I'll place this one on the right side of the plate. I'm running out of daylight, but I think I got enough time for 3 more shots. This particular one is very hard for level 4 to stop. Only some of the higher end plates have been able to stop it out of the 16-inch or longer. So I have M993, that is the Army's armor piercing round in 7.62 NATO, 130 grains with a tungsten core. We've got our SCAR 17S pistol here from Imperial Arms FN Specialties. I don't have an optic on here. I'm going iron sights. I hope I don't miss. Height over bore though at 45 feet should place me where I want. This should be in the lower right hand corner. Hopefully I don't smoke anything. So, sorry, lower left hand corner. Very good velocity. Hopefully, let me go see where I hit. Well, that was an expensive mistake. I pretty much hit the bottom part of the plate. Let's try again. Ooh, good velocity. Our last 2 shots before I lose all the daylight. We've got our M14A1, it's a 152 grain armor piercing incendiary. It's got a lot of incendiary compound on it, and because it's getting dark outside, they're going to make a nice bright flash. These should be going 2,800 feet per second. We have the Savage Axis 110 Tactical, the left-hand eject, got the JK Armament rifle kit out front. Those 2 shots of M993, basically I wasted them. I need to get an optic on the SCAR 17. We'll go down and check out the plate in a minute here. So this shot, oh,
So much fire, so satisfying.
It would really help for me to have an optic on the SCAR 17 so we could actually know where the heck we're hitting at. But our shot of M995 AP was right there. Our shot of SMK, number 1, was right there. And then number 2 was right down here. Our first shot of M993 was at the literal edge of the plate. That is definitely not a fair hit. This second shot, I would call that a fair hit, but it's still pretty darn close to that epicenter. That not probably a good idea. Then our shot of M14A1, number 1 was right over here, and then number 2 was right there. That's 2 inches from the edge. I'll consider that. I apologize, folks. Probably should have waited for a different day. Place those bets in the comments below. Uh-oh, Raggy. We have a penetration, obviously from the M993 on the bottom, because it literally just scooted off the bottom. And that second shot there, you can see that nice little penetrator hole. Maybe you can't. But our M995 was stopped. Our SMK, both shots of those were stopped. Now that one might have been close to that shot, so that one penetrated, but this one over here was stopped. Our back face, though, is pretty darn hefty on that M14A1 shot. 42 millimeters. Let's get these guys torn down and check our penetrations and give you guys some closing thoughts and prayers. Now for everyone's favorite part, paging Dr. Matt to surgery. This is where we tear down our plates and kind of give you guys an insight into the constructions and different materials used to make up personal protection body armor. This is our polyethylene backer. There's no foam on the back of it. Obviously, this is the rear little fabric cover. Pulled that off. I measured this around 412 thousandths thick. It does appear to be pressed. That is very good retention of shape even after being hit with some high-powered rounds. This is plate number 2. There was our penetration of M993. There was that one I really goofed up. This was the shot of M14A1, number 1 and number 2. Now for some insight, here's the flip side of it. There was the shot of M995. The ceramic completely broke that projectile up enough and disintegrated enough of it that it didn't even make it into polyethylene. Whereas our M993, you can see there's a nice, beautiful little hole in there. And I actually found the rear section of that bullet, which contains like the little aluminum sleeve in there. Our M14A1 down here likely penetrated because it's pretty darn close to that SMK round. I mean, I would consider that maybe a fair hit. This one was stopped though, but you can see how much of that core is left in there. But the ceramic broke it up enough and turned it sideways that the polyethylene caught it. Now here comes another interesting part. This is like a crack propagation layer or a lamination layer to try to laminate our ceramic together. I measured that right around 30 thousandths. There is our silicon carbide ceramic. I measured that right around 393 thousandths thick. I have a piece of ceramic somewhere around here. Oh, right here. It's right around 393 to 395 thousandths thick. So a little lighter on the color than I'm used to, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of dust compared to others. Here is the rest of that ceramic. And then on the front, we have an 80 thousandths thick drop face foam, which is good for protecting against any drops. And another one of those crack propagation layers. I do like that there is a thin foam on the outer perimeter that helps against any bumps and bruises. And then on our plate number 1, same construction. Our penetrations were our M80A1 300 wind shad, one shot of M855A1, that was shot number 5, And then shot number 2 of M2 AP at, I think it was 40 feet per second over. Very interesting. It continues to be this area right here. I don't know if it's the curvature or what, but this particular area right here always has trouble stopping M2 AP. As I mentioned with NIJ level 4 or RF3, I do believe that single hit is placed pretty much dead center. That M855A1 that penetrated, there must not have been any ceramic there to really slow it down, because we have pretty much a very nice clean hole there. All in all, I think we did a pretty good job. MILITECH did a pretty good job putting this plate together. I would like to see better adhesion of this layer to the ceramic, kind of like HESCO and RMA have done. But this is one of the first times I've seen a edge-to-edge strike face come out of China as far as our body armor goes. Well, everyone, I'd like to apologize about those last 2 shots of M993. Those are very expensive, and I pretty much wasted them. Although that second shot, I almost would consider a fair hit. I probably should have stopped the test when I realized I didn't have any kind of optic or known holdover for our SCAR 17. But sometimes you just get in the heat of the moment and you want to get it done, and that's what we end with. All in all, I think MILITECH built a pretty solid plate here. I like that we have a monolithic strike face that extends edge to edge. Our polyethylene appears pressed, and it appears to be high enough quality that even though we threw some high energy shots at it, including our M2 armor piercing, it held its shape really well, and the back face that we saw in the clay was more than acceptable. Now bear in mind, as I've mentioned many other times, any of the results that you see over here only pertain to the samples that I was sent. You should always reach out to the manufacturer for them to produce any actual accredited NIJ lab test reports for any of the threats that you saw me stop. And on the flip side, as the manufacturer, if you see me stop threats here like M995, you totally should send these plates off to an accredited lab to get that special threat rated. I like that MILITECH is using some type of material to essentially laminate our strike face together like we've seen with our HESCO and RMA products, because that lamination of the strike face helps increase the durability of it. If I could offer any constructive criticism, it would be to increase the adhesion between the rear of our strike face and our polyethylene backer. I like that this particular design was able to stop multi-strikes of M2 armor piercing, even those well above the spec velocity. Now there seems to be some kind of weak area with most multi-curve strike faces when it comes to this upper curve here in the chest area, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. That's why I wish the NIJ would address the multi-strike capability of M2 armor piercing with a threat level above level 4 RF3, because in the testing guidelines you only have to stop one of those rounds at center of mass. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here, but at the end of all my videos I take a moment to thank all those who help make these possible. Number 1 is my Patreon and Subscribe Star fans. I have a link tree in the description below. Various ways to contact me, ask me questions, and or support me. I get a lot of requests for body armor all the time, and unfortunately sometimes I can't work with the manufacturer to get those plates either for free or at a heavily discounted price. So that means any of the ad revenue that I don't make on YouTube or through my affiliate links, I pretty much have to put towards one of these plates. And sometimes when those plates cost, $5, $6, $7, $800, it pretty much drains all my funds, and then I can't test other plates. Number 2 is my friend Kenjamin over at MILITECH, who in full transparency sent me those plates to test with no strings attached. I apologize to him that it took me a year, I think, to actually get these done, but we got them done, and we'll move on to some other tests. And of course, number 3 is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.